Hey, this is Ken Behr, author of One Step Over the Line, Confessions of a Marijuana Mercenary, and the website, onestepovertheline.com. You're going to love this episode. John actually started to get in trouble. Him and his brother had to go on the run, and he faked his own death and got away with it for years. So important and so interesting that the Discovery Channel did a television show about him called Alligators and Autopsies. Watch this.
And we're at his house in northern Florida, and we're looking over some of the memorabilia from his lifelong tales of drug smuggling and just all of it. So we're here going through an entire table, books piled up. There's my book on top because I just gave it to him. But there's a lot of information that we're going to try to go over the next couple hours with Daryl.
Totally.
Yeah. So you were just telling me about how you, not to go into detail, but you did everything from sponsoring oil well drilling to being on the run. You just showed me a picture of, your back in your jacket. It said, "Fuck communism."
Yep.
So I want to...
I was in the Air Force. My brother was Special Forces.
Right, he was Green Beret, right? Wasn't he?
Yep.
So here's something that I'll ask you before we get going into the interview. Obviously, did you ever, growing up in the 60s and 70s like you and I did, and you even before me, did you ever see yourself being a criminal at any time in life? I mean, did you ever think you were going to rob somebody and break the law in any way growing up?
No, not really, but I ran with a bunch of tough guys, and I've been in more damn fights than you could count on your head.
But so, do you think that if I read that your brother had a fencing company, was it?
No, fire sprinkler.
Fire sprinkler system, yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually sold some of that in one of my many lives. And you got to, was it because you landed in South Florida at night? You were in South Florida, and the drug explosion just landed at your feet, and like every opportunist, you said, "Hey, I want to make a few bucks running some pot."
No. Construction industry, what the hell?
What the hell?
What the holy hell in the early 70s?
Early 70s.
I borrowed some money off a guy by the name of William Valentine Herschel. His nickname is Rat Son of a Bitch. He got us into it, and then I saw him on the witness stand in my federal trial.
It's the way it rolls.
And also John David Steele, who was the ex-mayor of Hallandale, was involved in that. The first thing, Herschel loaned me some money because of all the crap going on with the construction quality. So he came back to me not too much later. This is how we got into it for real.
The first crime, so to speak, the day one, yeah.
He said, "Hey, how do you like to work that debt off?" So I said, "I don't know. What do you mean?" He said, "I might come down and see it." He come down to see me, and they had 50,000 pounds of marijuana offshore of North Carolina.
In 1973 or
74.
Big load for the smell. That's when the load started getting really big. Obviously, 50,000 is a big load.
It just depends on who you were. So we didn't know. We were fishermen anyway. We had small boats.
Right.
So my brother goes up first. I follow him up. This is for real story. I go into a hotel. I'm in there. I get up the next morning and I come walking out, gonna go downstairs, and there's federal agents running up and down the hallways, and they're all excited. They don't know us. We're not the Smith brothers by far yet. And I looked around. My mother was a police and fire department dispatcher.
Right.
So I thought we grew up here on her telling all the stories.
Yeah.
So I knew what the hell they were talking about. So I acted like I forgot something. I went, I went back in, packed my bag, came walking out, walked right down the hallway with all of them, and they're still yapping. They're getting ready for this gigantic bust. And 50,000 pounds was a hell of
a huge bust in the 70s, early 70s.
So I go down. There was no cell phones. I think we had beepers by that time, I believe.
Yeah, the first ones.
Yeah. I don't care when they were. I had communications with John David Steele's wife.
Right.
So I called her on the payphone
Right.
and told her, listen, I'm in the middle of a whole herd of federal agents who are going to bust this load. I said, I know what they're talking about. I know what they've said. I said, if you can get word to John, because I'm going to try to get hold of my brother at that time.
And where was your brother? Was he going hitting the freight?
No, yeah, they were.
Well, so let me stop you real quick. Were they going to bring the 50,000 pounds into a marina offloaded, or were they going to use small ship? Novas and little boats to run out and get it.
all of the above.
Okay.
But they loaded 2 tractor trailer loads up. By the time I got my part of it, wasn't going to be out there. I was going to be out there offloading.
Well, you were going to land shark it.
Yeah, so I was going to run the
Hold on. Land shark is after the weed gets to the land, then people like myself, or maybe in this instance Daryl for that day, are the people that are going to move it from the smuggling spot out to the distribution areas. So we used to call the guys offshore sharks, and then the guys moving it inside the country land sharks.
So they had already loaded the 2 tractor trailers full of pot.
Right.
And she actually got hold of her husband and Bill Herschel, and those guys didn't do anything about it.
They didn't believe it. They just kept
I don't know what the hell they had in their minds. But that next day, the feds scooped them all up and the 50,000 pounds.
So the 2 tractor trailers never pulled out.
Nope. Well, when they started to, they let them actually make the first move and moving the stuff.
Right.
And then they just came in and everybody went to jail.
That was the first trip you ever did?
It was the first thing we were ever involved in.
So I want to just say this. So the first deal you ever did, my first deal I think was actually, just so you know, was a bag of parsley sprinkled with some flour that we sold the kid down the street, told was pot in 1959 in New Orleans. Your first deal is 50,000 pound offloads.
Yep.
So, sir, again.
And all that stuff is in here, in the book.
In your old year. So I'm going to go back to your brother was in the military.
Yeah.
It's Special Forces, Green Beret. You were in the Navy. So you guys, and
I was in
Air Force. I'm sorry, I apologize. But so today, and obviously I'm going to the very today, 4/20, April 20th, 2024. You are an American citizen. I got the impression from what we've talked about that you're a law and order guy. Is this true? I mean, do you look back now, and say, like me, after going through jail and doing everything I did, man, I chased a shoplifter through New Orleans for 4 blocks for some purse belonged to a department store. Motherfucker was a thief. I'm a law and order guy. Just because I ran some... Yeah, me too.
All it was.
Me too. Just because I ran some drugs didn't mean I didn't believe in the goddamn American, law. No, I'm sorry.
Well, I also believed that the FBI was the premier legal agency in the world. And now I can't believe the stuff that I keep hearing.
So I remember when the DEA first came around in 1973, one of my mentors, Ed Demorell, Hollywood, Hollandale guy, said to me, I don't know, DEA sounds like it's a regulatory industry. And the drug enforcement is inside, they're trying to stop it. They're just trying to get like the IRS, get the money. And, there is some, we know, in this one deal, the guy was the mayor of Hollywood, but a lot of the government smuggled drugs. I mean, I have in my book, and they were
doing Afghanistan, Vietnam, all kinds of...
World War II, in the Civil War, they were giving out opioids to the soldiers to keep them marching. So I mean, the American government's been involved in running drugs forever. Iran-Contra scandal. When I was a kid, I'll tell you a story back to, not you, I know we're talking about you, but I remember one of my first deals was to go buy, someone gave me like $18,000 wrapped in aluminum foil. I was 18 years old. It was 18. Sends me to the bank to deposit. I come back, And because, I was just a kid, they let me run down there. And it was Peyton Cromwell, and he used to work with Bruce Goodwin, I think his name was. And he says, listen, kid, when I land in Columbia, this is 1973, 74, when I'm throwing the bales in my little plane, like, bucket brigade style, he goes, there's an American C-111 with U.S. soldiers and forklifts living in the weed right next to me. So did you ever find yourself, you went down to Columbia, I never been to Columbia, I've been to Jamaica, but Columbia is a big bold step. You went down there, did you see anything like the Barry Seal type of thing with
We were Barry Seal, but the airport that was closest to us, I was in El Rodadero, and I met a guy, and it wound up, this whole family was big time. And we're going to do a long head. So we have a DC-3 coming in, and he and I were in a condo that they had that was close, right? So we said,
to watch
we're watching with binoculars. Here it comes. Here comes the DC-3. The Colombian Army blocked off north, south. Trucks came in, unloaded, loaded the DC-3, hauled ass, and then they allowed traffic to get
right. Everybody else can go to work that day.
So me and my buddy, we hauled ass, and the pilots took off. And according to them, they got chased and they dumped the load in the Gulf of Mexico, which I never believed. Right? I never believed. And I figured the Colombians, if they're going to go shoot somebody, they ain't going to shoot me.
Yeah.
Well, that
what was that, about 5,000 pounds?
Close to it, yeah.
Yeah.
4,500 to it.
Yeah. That's it. Just so I can throw somebody under the bus. In one of those books over there, The Saltwater Cowboy, it claims that a DC-3 had 6,600 pounds in it. And
no gas.
Well, no gas and no kickers, right? Because how are you gonna put the guys? You need 4 people. It's another 1,000 pounds in flesh. 2 guys have to kick the bales out of the plane. There's no way a DC-3 ever carried 66.
No way.
No way. Not only for weight, but for space. But he's got a lot of fish stories in his book. You want to go over and ship and
Wait, what else we got here? What's in the box?
Okay, I was going to ask the same question.
Okay. This, when I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm in Buffalo with my kids and whatnot. This is called the brass rat. It's a knife sharpener.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now there should be, I got some of the other ones, but there was a leather lanyard that goes at the bottom.
Nice. I love that.
This is tungsten carbide. I
hold it?
Sure.
It's nice and heavy.
So was that the only use for it? Or do you have other things you did?
Well, if I was just no, I would use it in my hands if I had to.
The feel for this, the quality of the wood is beautiful. What is this?
I think it's in
like walnut. It looks like a walnut.
And they
brass.
They actually make that, and then they cut it out, but it looks like wood. Acts like wood. It's harder than wood.
But can I tell you, this is a fine. I'm a guy that's had to work with my hands once or twice in my life. Is a really nice feel.
Oh yeah.
Is a beautiful tool.
I still have about 5 of them left.
It's a beautiful tool. I love it. And the paper, you wrap it in a nice box. And
we sold them to every knife sharpening, any book. Yeah, off to the bag. I'd send one to the magazines, and they say, well, if you pay for the ad, then we'll put your ad in, and it worked out just fine.
No,
we got them from all sides.
Did you? No. So let me ask you. You said you're an entrepreneur. So obviously, did you do this after you got out of the drug running thing, or is this one of your little things that you tried?
No, I did it in my basement in Buffalo.
While you were
out of the when I got busted, then my wife
carry forward.
She was doing it also, but she wasn't doing it, but she wasn't like me. Right?
Well, that's always the case. There's only one jockey, right?
What's this? Or this? Go ahead.
You know who Leslie Bailey is?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest piece of shit that ever walked the face of the earth. He's scumbag extraordinaire. I went down to meet him and his crew. I took $5,000 out. They were down in South Miami somewhere. Came back the next day and gave him $95,000 in cash. And never did anything. Piece of garbage.
Did you know a guy named, probably past you, Hank Asher? He was friends with Bailey. So I mentioned, I'm actually reading his book. He was a smuggler that became a computer wizard.
I can't believe this piece of shit had a friend. He stole from everybody, and that's what this is about.
Yeah.
I helped get him disbarred
Oh, nice.
in the state of Florida for life.
What year was this that he was disbarred?
Oh,
I'll tell you why, because in one of the cases that I was associated with, one of my friends hired him on their appeal, on their post-conviction appeal, and they didn't get
they had no chance.
Well, he wasn't. They hired everybody. You know, it was after the O.J. Simpson thing. Well, this is that's your that's your. So you were a little leak. So this is not unusual. Then you are on the run, drug smuggler.
Yep. I sponsored a team. I still have
the jacket.
one of the jerseys. These were 12-year-olds. I was a coach.
I read that in there. My daughter played softball all the way through college, and my son played baseball up into college. So I did the whole thing. If I used to say, if you would have told me, and see if this connects to you, that at the time I was a kid, driving around in cigarette boats and hanging out in bars and Lamborghinis and Porsches, that where I would end up was all day at a softball or baseball park as a dad, I never would have saw that coming. And that's my proudest work.
Yeah, I was always like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I never saw that coming.
So is this
This is 2019, and
okay.
This when they still printed the papers.
Yeah. Did with her is this was part of the thing she was doing.
Right.
But when it came to me,
well, this is this guy, the guy that wrote McBride. That's the guy that wrote the Saltwater Diaries.
oh really?
Yeah, that good book. Guy was a big smuggler, but I just don't buy all his stories. He was a fisherman, so there's some tall tales.
This part of this story is all about me, and they called me the most. It's quite a story, but perhaps the most Florida man smuggling story of all involves a state murder, bullet-ridden station wagon, and of course alligators. Tonight they named my segment.
Right.
Alligators and autopsies.
Miami's most notorious drug smuggler is backed into a corner.
I'm going to prison, and I may never come out.
He hatches a daring plan that will keep him free.
I took some of the blood, trying to make it look like a regular shooting.
He goes underground for years with a new identity. Will U.S. Marshals be able to prove that a dead man is still very much alive? Boyd's trial is months away. His parents put up their home to buy their son's freedom. John Daryl's brother Tracy has no intention of spending a day behind bars and skips town immediately. But Boyd wants to keep his family together and keep the feds off his trail. He figures there's only one way: convince the world he's dead.
I don't want to break in case anybody wants to watch it, but why? I know you But when I understand, you probably took your car out to 27 or 75 somewhere. And
This helped him in the trail.
yeah, down Miami, and the machine gunned it. But where'd the alligator come in? Did you throw a half a corpse in there or something?
No, I had cowboy boots on, and I drugged my boots. So look,
Like,
they drugged me, threw me. I was right by a lake, and it was a station wagon
out.
out.
And then you went outside and shot in different guns.
So different ones. I had 4 different guns,
Right, you had the different calibers, different bullets.
Right.
You had forensics issue.
and left the shell casings and all that stuff. I also had a fishing license with my name on it next to a lake.
Yeah.
If you're out in the glades, you better have your damn
Yeah,
right. So
freshwater license shit.
it was still in there, and listen. I flew all the way to Buffalo, New York. My buddy's wife was a nurse, had a Gerber's baby food jar. I should be on the front of that jar, not that chip. Because I filled a damn big jar like this with blood, my blood.
Oh, jeez.
Put it in a cool bag, which with frozen
Right.
deal in it, and flew back with it. Splattering blood all over the place and this side and the other.
In the car, you mean? Mm-hmm. So you came back from Buffalo with blood on it.
Yeah.
So when you were flying, back then, you didn't need an ID to fly. You just make up a fake ID. It wasn't like 1970s and 80s. You weren't.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't matter because, the airline wasn't looking for me, but
No, I understand.
cops have been chasing it for years already.
Right, but what I'm saying is you flew under your own name or you just made up a name?
I'm not quite sure on that because after I did what I did, my brother, one of my brothers went with me. He just stayed out by the road as guard, and he used to act like he was broke out or whatever the hell. And he picks me up, and the next day, my buddy from Buffalo, he's in the Discovery Channel too. I think Mike Podskowski.
Hours later, the next phase of Boyd's getaway begins. He is sure police will be watching the Miami airport. He has arranged for his friend, Mikey Ponchakowski, to drive him to Atlanta.
I sat in the hotel room for 4 days waiting on him. Thursday around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a knock on the door. There he was.
So he takes me to Atlanta. I'm going to get on a plane and fly to Buffalo. So we drive up there.
So you left South Florida, drove to Atlanta, got on a plane in Atlanta to Buffalo.
But is anything not ever that simple with me yet?
No.
Okay.
Or in the drug business.
No, you have not heard this one. We go to Atlanta airport, get our tickets and all that stuff. And yes, I use a different name on that one.
Sure.
So I give Mikey, I think I gave Mikey the money and he went and got the tickets. He's going to come back and wait for me. So I go in the men's room, and I got my carry bag, and I got clothes and whatnot and this, that. So I go in there. You know how the mirrors are?
Yeah.
So I'm washing my face, and I look up. Here comes the DEA agent who's on my case, walking behind me. So he walked by me.
Just by coincidence?
Yeah, it was. But I didn't know that. I'm figuring there's 24 FBI, DEA.
You're ready to turn around and go like this. Why make it hard on me? Handcuff me forward, not backward. Right? I'm going to do it behind my back yet.
I'm Irish, not a Polak. I look up and I go, son of a bitch. So I put and I had fake glasses on. Because at the time I was wearing contacts, but I had these big old black on-rim glasses.
Been there.
So I get up, he walks by me and goes to take a leak. I grab my stuff, turn around, I sit, I go into the toilets. I change my shoes, I change my shirt, I change my hat, take off the glasses. And I'm figuring the whole damn crew's out there waiting with me with drawing guns. So I walk out and I see Mikey standing right across the hallway.
So that was just so I understand, it's just at the gate or in the airport?
No, we were. He went and got the tickets. Then we were going to go.
So you were in the common area ready to go get your tickets, go down to the mark, the plaque of the LB.
So I come out. Mikey's standing there. I don't even look at him. I just take a left, and I can see taxis and whatnot down at the end of the hallway there. He doesn't say anything, and he knows if I don't say anything, and he shouldn't say anything. So he goes, gets on a plane and goes to Buffalo. I go, have the cab driver take me to a private airport. I go to a private airport, and I tell him, look, I got a business meeting. I said, it's a big deal. We're going to lose the company. I had a whole big bullshit story on the way out there. So I tell him all this stuff. And
Quick thinking, sir, and I say,
yeah, and I tell him, I say, look, so these guys, they put, there's 3 of them in a twin engine because they think there's something, because I want to pay them cash. I said, look, I didn't have time for all that crap. I said, I didn't know if you guys would take credit cards or whatever, so I paid them in cash.
for a twin engine, seemed like a...
And they flew me from Atlanta to Buffalo, where I then went and got a hotel room and then called my friend so they didn't, if anybody was following me or anything.
So you rented like a twin engine Seneca or something of that.
Yeah, what?
Oh, by the way, just so people know, it's a pretty long flight from Atlanta to Buffalo, especially if it's in the wintertime. You're going to hit some weather. It's not exactly like being in a 550 mile an hour jet. It's not. No. It's a bit of a flight.
But
It's about 1,000 miles.
that was the best
Yeah,
for me.
that's right.
To get out of Dodge.
So it's quick thinking.
So I go up there. I get a hotel room. I call my buddy.
Howdy.
And I tell them, hey, I'm in Holiday Inn or whatever the hell it was. And everything worked out fine. So that's when I got the apartment visit. And that's when we started plotting and planning. And I wound up with my friend Mikey. He drove with us all the way to Washington State.
Oh. That's a long drive. So
All the beach. I wanted to get as far away
from the...
There's Florida.
Well, that's geographically, that is the longest distance.
Hey, I hope you liked that show. Remember, there's episode 1 that's really interesting and they tie together, so make sure you watch it. And by the way, I hope you can like and subscribe. The little button down below, because we're trying to build this channel and every one of you subscribers matters. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and there'll be way more to come.